Guys, Shorty Phillips here with my November 2nd DVD update, where I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I received a review and talk about for you guys over the last 2 weeks or so. Like I always say, guys, enjoy these update videos. Definitely give this video a thumbs up. Leave me comments below this video and what you guys thought about the titles I checked out and reviewed this update. Any titles coming up that you guys like me to review for future updates, and some of the new DVDs and Blu-rays which you guys have picked up recently. Now, the first one I got here from Shout Factory's Shout Select line is the Michael Keaton film Mr. Mom. I have not watched this movie in years. This is one of those movies I remember like as a kid. I watched this movie so many times. It's like one of those movies I grew up watching all the time. Always been a fan of Michael Keaton though. Like, I feel like Beetlejuice, like so many of his films I've watched so many times. Dream Team, of course this movie, Beetlejuice, Batman, all of them. So many of them are real watchable movies. And this movie is basically though about Michael Keaton who works at this factory job, and he ends up getting laid off and losing his job. And because of that, his wife ends up having to go back to work. And it's kind of him, he's like, well, don't worry, this is only going to be temporary. I'm going to find a new job, and, and everything will be fine again. But of course, though, it turns into a big thing, and the wife immediately finds a job right away. And Michael Keaton's character is having terrible times finding a job. So he ends up becoming Mr. Mom. So he ends up having to stay at home and watch the kids, do all the kind of stuff that his wife was doing before. And he has to kind of learn, to do this. And he's having all sorts of problems with all the kind of stuff when it comes to like grocery shopping, and then he has to deal with like some of the kind of the weird neighbors and all these kind of issues, and he's got so many problems having to kind of learn how to do everything. And he's also dealing with the fact that his wife now is getting really high up in the job that she gets. Like early on, she gets like right in there because the boss kind of likes the wife. So then there's all that kind of stuff going on with the wife, and then this her boss kind of hitting on her. So then Michael Keaton is like really worried about all this that's going on. So it's just kind of him trying to hold everything together while his wife is now going back at work, and he's trying to find a job and then deal with being the mom of the house and doing all these things that he had never done before. To me though, this is just a really, really fun movie. Looks great on Blu-ray. It has on here though a looking back featurette on here with some of the actors on here, as well as the producer on this one as well. But just a really, really fun movie here. The next one here from Shout Factory's Scream Factory line. This is one I heard a lot about. A lot of people saying how cool this movie was. And this actually was a very interesting movie. It's a movie called A Dark Song. And this is basically about, the main guy in this one was from that film Sightseers, which is a really weird movie about this couple going out into the woods with it and like these weird stuff going on with them. But this movie's basically though about this woman who hires this guy because she wants him to kind of perform this ritual. And this guy is really weird, and he's like, well, in order to do this ritual, there's a lot of things you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to lock yourself into the house with me, and we're not gonna be able to leave, and you have to get all this food and supplies, and there's gonna be all these weird things you have to do, these rituals and odd stuff, and are you okay with this? Because the woman the reason why is because her son had died, and she wants to try and, the ritual is to try and communicate with her son again, because she just wants to talk to him again. So this guy like comes into the house with her, and she kind of buys this house out in the middle of the country, in the middle of nowhere, so they're kind of can be left alone for as long as this whole thing takes. And it's kind of her barricading herself in this house with this guy. They can't leave because he drew a perimeter around the house and says, if you leave this house, you're going to break the ritual, and we're going to be trapped forever. It's going to ruin everything. So it's essentially though these two in this house, kind of locking themselves in there, going through these odd rituals that he's doing to her, which is like drinking blood and dumping all this water on her, and like not letting her sleep and making her eat weird things, and it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder, and this guy doesn't really seem like he knows what he's doing, and it's just like a really insane movie. It keeps leading up and up to all this crazy stuff going on, and like the last 30 minutes of the movie are really, really cool. Like it's one of those movies though, it's a total slow burn film, so you really, really have to stick with the film, but I thought it was really cool and really different, not like a real typical kind of movie that you've seen a million times before. A lot of different stuff to this. Has on here though some interviews with the actors on here, as well as deleted scenes, storyboards, and a theatrical trailer on this one. The next one here from Scream Factory as well. This is a Dan O'Bannon film. Dana Van only directed 2 films. You know, he was behind like the writing for Alien and Total Recall and lots of different stuff. But when it comes to directing, though, he only directed Return of the Living Dead, which is like one of my all-time favorite movies ever, and then this film called The Resurrected, which is one I had never heard of before. I always like when Shout Factory releases stuff, you know, through the Scream Factory line, which are kind of like lesser known horror movies that I have not heard of. And this is one, like I said, I was really interested in seeing. It's basically, it kind of has the feel a little bit to Reanimator. It's based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. It's basically about this woman who hires this kind of private investigator to try and figure out what her husband's up to, because her husband is like he has like this kind of house outside of their house, like a little guest house, and he's out there doing like really weird experiments, and there's like been bodies that are coming in there, and the husband's like in trouble with the police because of these bodies, and she doesn't know exactly what he's doing and what's going on. So it's basically that this private investigator is trying to investigate and figure out exactly what the husband is up to, what he's doing in this house, and of course the husband is up to doing some really, really odd experiments with bodies and really weird things. And of course, though, he, you know, kind of goes in there and dives into figuring out what he's doing. It was like I said, it kind of had the feel of like a Reanimator sort of take on the thing. I actually thought it was pretty interesting, though. Like I said, there's only 2 movies that Dan O'Bannon actually had directed, but always really liked the stuff that he wrote. And of course, like I said, Return of the Dead is like my favorite movie of all time. But this has on here a brand new 2K scan of the film, as well as some interviews on here with the actress, commentary track with producers, so deleted extended scenes, so tons of different features on this one. The next one here from Lionsgate. This is a movie, you know, on Tupac, the biopic on Tupac called All Eyez on Me, and I saw this one in theaters as well. I really like this movie. It sort of has the feel of like an R-rated Lifetime film a little bit. It sort of has that feel a little bit, because Lifetime's done a whole lot of different biopics on Brittany Murphy, Britney Spears, tons and tons of different people. But this was like felt like kind of like an R-rated Lifetime movie, but like if also a Lifetime movie with had way more budget to it, and they worked a lot more on the casting, because like they really, I thought casting wise, especially Tupac, I thought the guy they found really, you know, had his Tupac's act down, really looked like him a lot. Also, the actor that plays Suge Knight, I thought he was really cool in this. He did an amazing job. And this is basically, though, all following Tupac from when he was a kid, and it's, of course, though, it kind of shows certain things quicker than others, and I know they said that some things were kind of changed around a little bit just to kind of give the movie, to make everything kind of flow together, but it's essentially, though, about his, you know, kind of rise from when he was a kid and kind of how he started, and then kind of the things that he did, you know, the films that he got into, and then it eventually, you know, leads up to his death and stuff. But there was some stuff about it, though, like when he's a scene when he's driving around in Vegas, it was kind of like modern Vegas, so it was like Vegas now, so like it wasn't the way it would have been like when Tupac was alive going through Vegas. Like some of that kind of stuff was kind of weird, like those little tiny details. They didn't like take away from the movie or anything, but like those are just some of the things that like were kind of weird, though, like just little things like that. But as a movie, though, as a biopic, though, I feel like it was definitely one of the better biopics that I've seen in a long time. And like I said, the casting really did work in this. And has on here, though, deleted scenes, the making of All Eyez on Me. It has a feature out on here about becoming Tupac, and then as well as the actor who played Tupac's audition on here as well. The next one here from Lionsgate as well, and this is a 4K release of, you know, Cabin in the Woods, and I hadn't watched this movie since it was in theaters, and I remember really liking this movie. I remember, too, when this movie was one of those films that took a long time to come out. I remember, like, always hearing about this one, and it had, like, a lot of delays and stuff, and, you know, it was just such a cool movie. It's one of those movies, too, that kind of turned slasher movies on its head, because it was kind of like the things you always expect and are so used to with these kind of movies. It totally, like, makes you think that, like, oh, this kind of stuff could be going on behind the scenes of it. And I didn't even realize, too, watching this, the movie really reminds me a little bit of Stay Tuned. It kind of has that sort of feel to it. It's essentially, though, about this like operation, and you see these 2 guys watching these cameras. And you see like these group of these friends going out to the cabin in the woods, and like it's like that type of story. But then you see like behind the scenes that there's cameras everywhere in the cabin, on the way to the cabin, and you see these guys are this big like office type building are watching watching this, and they're kind of saying, open up room number 1 and cut to camera 2 and send in this scent, and this scent does this, and this smell and stuff into the room, and do this, and oh yeah, this, they've changed rooms, they're supposed to be in this room. It's like, so it's this weird thing, and throughout the movie you kind of start to figure out more and more about what these guys are doing there, and how they're kind of like behind the scenes of things. And like I said, it definitely flips the kind of horror slasher movie on its head. I really like this movie a lot. Like I said, it really holds up watching it again, because like I said, I have not seen this movie since I first saw this one in theaters when it came out. I think it was it 2011 it came to theaters, I believe? I'm pretty sure. I can't remember. I know whenever it was in theaters was the last time I saw it. Now, for the 4K release here, though, I want to mention, too, the special features are on the 4K as well as the Blu-ray, but the movie, though, looks great on 4K. It's a movie, too, that was a very, very dark film, since most of the movie was set at night and things like that. It was a lot of stuff. So definitely, with the high dynamic range of the 4K, that's a big thing with that, is the color and like the sharpness, and then the color and the contrast. And it definitely does boost the color, so you can see a lot more details. You can see way more of the stuff that's kind of going on in the woods and stuff in the background and stuff. But definitely, worthy to upgrade if you guys do have 4K here. And the next one from Lionsgate as well is a 4-movie collection here, which is it's 4 different movies from Lifetime, and it has 4 different films. The first one is Big Driver, which is based on a story by Stephen King. It has Manson's Lost Girls, Hush Little Baby, and Devil's Diary. My favorite one on here is Big Driver. That's a really, really great revenge film about this one woman who has like a terrible thing happen to her out in this road in the middle of nowhere, and it's kind of her trying to track down the guy that did this to her, and it's like an amazing revenge movie. It was definitely like really different, I thought, for a Lifetime movie. Especially it goes really far and goes like really crazy with some of the stuff that's happening in it. And I feel like too, it's one of the Stephen King like stories that you don't hear about as much, but it was a really, really good one. Definitely worth it for that film if you guys haven't seen it. The other one is Manson's Lost Girls, which is about Charles Manson. And the 2 other ones were older Lifetime movies that were released in 2007. I didn't even know that they were making Lifetime movies back in 2007. I felt like for some reason that kind of started like in the recent years, but the Big Driver was from 2 years back, but definitely a really cool one here, and each movie is here on double-sided DVDs here. The next one here from Disney is a new documentary from Disney's nature line. Always, Disney always does an amazing job with these nature documentaries. This one is Disney's Born in China. This is basically, though, filming in areas of China they really haven't done too much following around. 3 different animals, and it also has some other animals as well throughout it, like some little segments of them. But it's basically following around here a panda, as well as a golden monkey and a snow leopard. It's basically, though, about their, the family, each of the animals' families, and it's kind of about like the predators that are after them, and kind of their journeys out there, and kind of the things that they go through, and like just kind of the whole thing, like with them all out there in nature and the stuff that's going on, and it's just like amazing cinematography. You guys know Disney stuff, though. When it comes to cinematography, they're probably some of the best with nature documentaries. They just do such an amazing job with getting these kind of things, which you just don't know how they're getting half of this stuff, and how they're like where they're hiding the cameras, and how they're able to get so close on these animals without them like running off, and like I don't know, they really do an amazing job too putting the footage together too to form a whole story with it. But it has on here, though, a whole bunch of different featurettes on here. Walking with Monkeys, the Shivering Crew bundles up to film the adorable golden snub monkeys, as well as Masters of Camouflage, talking about how they are able to actually go and film this stuff and kind of hide the cameras and all that kind of stuff on these ones, as well as a number of other featurettes on this one as well. But just a really, really well done documentary here. The next one here from Anchor Bay. This is one I was really interested in seeing because Andrew Davoff, from Wishmaster, is in this movie, and it's a movie called The Hatred. And this is basically, I feel like the stuff in the beginning was some of my favorite stuff, though, because there's Andrew Davoff as with his his daughter and his wife out in the middle of like this weird kind of countryside area, and it's like, I think it was in the 60s, and Andrew Davoff's character is someone who was years back was like a Nazi, and he's now hiding out in America, and he's like sort of trying to hide in plain sight, and his like daughter doesn't really know about his past, and I don't really think his wife does as well, because he gets sent this book, which is like this weird like inside the book is like this Nazi amulet thing, and he ends up hiding it in the wall of his house. But of course, though, like like it says this, the amulet looks like this thing. And of course, though, he ends up like, because his daughter is kind of contrary and she wants to leave the house because he's all kind of nuts and saying, you're not going to leave this house ever. You're going to stay in this house and you can't go outside. And he's like really nuts. And like, she's like really like not having it. And he ends up killing her the one day and hiding her. And then like the wife ends up getting killed and he ends up dying like when they're fighting each other. And then it's, you know, years later, it's a group of these friends that are going to this cabin because the one, I was kind of confused about the story a little bit, but I think it was like the one was like a student of the one, it was like their student, it was their college professor's house, and they were kind of there watching their daughter before they got there to the house, kind of like babysitting her, and then they were out loud to kind of just kind of hang out, the party at the house. But of course, though, when they're there, though, you know, of course, since this house is kind of cursed and all this stuff, they start seeing weird things in the house, and there's like, they're seeing like this gas mask kind of character because the Andrew DeVolf's character wore this gas mask because it was all on the this kind of, what was the field again? I totally forgot what it was. It was some sort of a field that he was I think it was an apple field. I can't remember, but he was always like spraying pesticide and stuff on it. But he ends up, you know, you see this kind of character and you also see the girl that died there kind of wandering around the house. It's a very creepy, weird movie. I actually thought it was pretty cool though. And like I said, hopefully I'm saying his name wrong. I believe it's DeVolf. I believe that's how you say it, but he was really cool in this movie though. It has on here though a commentary track on here with the writer and director as well as the behind the scenes on this one. The next one here from Anchor Bay as well is a movie, and I don't know if this one was on Sci-Fi at first or not, but it's a movie called Drone Wars, and this is basically though, it's about like these alien ships that came down, and they have like these little like smaller ships and stuff, and it kind of shows how like everything is kind of destroyed. Like in the beginning of the movie, you see like everything is like all messed up, and people are all dead, and like there's like these ships everywhere, there's fires everywhere, things are all burnt down. It's sort of has like a Day of the Dead kind of vibe to it a little bit because it's like people are all kind of, and it also like mixed with like Mad Max, mixed with the Road Warrior, that kind of feel to the whole thing, all kind of combined together. And Cora Nemec is the star of this one. It's essentially though about him as like a army like sergeant guy who's like him and like his soldiers and some of the other soldiers that are around, and it's just like basically the survivors trying to survive and kind of hide from these little type of smaller creatures that are coming down, like these drone type things that are coming down to kill them. And it's also about these scientists that are trying to figure out if there's a way to stop this and kind of destroy the mothership. It's got that kind of mixed with like Independence Day kind of feel though, but actually a pretty cool one. And I thought too, like the look, because there's also like cannibal characters in this as well, because like people had all kind of gone nuts and there's a lack of food and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I said it's got kind of a mix of genres of all these kind of things together to it. But actually a pretty cool one here. It's all set in Los Angeles. And the next one's from Warner Brothers. They sent over free copies of these ones to check out. The first one is The Flash, the complete third season. I've actually really enjoyed this show. I have not watched all of them though, but I've watched episodes here and there. And the one thing too I really like about them is in the last season, Kevin Smith got to direct an episode. He directed an episode in this season. I think it was one episode. He's directed some episodes of Supergirl as well. I think it's so cool though that he's coming on to direct a lot of these superhero type TV shows. I would love to. It'd be so cool if he actually got to do a feature film for something for DC as well. I think that would be really cool to see his kind of take on things that he, you know, has really as a huge fan of as well. And they actually have on here, that's one thing that's cool about a lot of these shows too, is they always put a whole lot of different features on these. They have on here the DC and superhero crossover with Arrow, DC Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl. That's the one thing that's cool about these shows too. They have a lot of episodes too when the characters all kind of cross over together, as well as 10 different featurettes on here. It has a deleted scenes, it has a gag reel, it has the Flash 2016 Comic-Con panel, as well as an interview here as well with Kevin Smith talking about the show. I want to let you guys know this one is available. The next one here, this is one that I've hardly seen any episodes of. This is one that's been on for years. This show, too, I've always heard people kind of talking about, saying what a cool show this one is. And the show is Supernatural, the complete 12th season here. And this show, like I said, has been going on for a really long time. And from what I've seen of it, it's actually a pretty cool show. It's basically about these brothers, and they're all kind of fighting against evil type of forces. Like, it's all kind of different types of things. It's like, from what I've seen, it's like monsters, vampires, all kinds of random different creatures and stuff. of them trying to kind of fight against them and kind of save everybody from them. But it's actually a pretty cool show. Like I said, I can't say too much about it because I have not seen that many episodes of the show, and it's been on for so long now. It has on here though 4 different featurettes on here, as well as the Supernatural 2016 Comic-Con panel, 3 commentary tracks on here, unaired scenes, as well as a gag reel on this one. The next one here from Midnight Factory. This one is an Italian release. Now I want to mention too, it's a 4K. The 4K edition of this, the 4K disc, 4K is all, at least as of now, is all region free. So if you guys have a 4K player, you can play, the 4K disc. But the Blu-ray discs in here are all region locked to region B. So you have to have an all region Blu-ray player, or have a Blu-ray player that will play region B discs. So if you guys try and put these discs into a just a regular American Blu-ray player, they will not play. So just make sure you guys take that in account, but you will be able to play the 4K disc. But this is the 4K edition of Zombie. And Zombie in Europe it's Dawn of the Dead is called Zombie, but really cool cover on this one. Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead are 2 of my all-time favorite movies ever. Like I've watched these movies so many times. Inside of here though, you get a booklet, and the booklet is all in Italian though, and it's got pictures and things like that from the films. It also has like some different posters I had never seen before. Like there was this one poster, see if I can figure out where it was. I think it was like in this, see if I can find, there was one poster I know I had never seen. I think it was this poster here. I don't recall ever seeing. I know this is the one, Zombies. This like one, I guess at some point they might have called it Zombies. I don't know, because I know it's, like I said, Zombie was the title in Europe, and also has some postcards in here. Postcards from the film as well, that exclusives to this release here. But just an amazing movie. The 4K though looks really great here on this. Definitely a great transfer on the 4K. And then in here though, I'll show you what's in the actual set. Like I said, you get the 4K disc, and as you see here, this one is all region A, B, and C. And then you get the European cut, which is the main cut. The 4K cut is the European cut. That's the only version you can watch in 4K. Then it has the European cut in full screen. It has the theatrical version. It has the extended version, and then a disc with extra features. The extended version, I actually always liked the extended one. At one point, I think they used to call it like the director's cut, I think. But the extended one is basically, there's a lot of cool stuff with them building like the wall when they're hiding out in the mall and stuff. If you guys don't know the movie, it's all set in a zombie. Zombies have all come back, and it's a group of these people who have kind of come together on a plane and hide in a mall and kind of barricade themselves in the mall and like make it like they're not in there. But just like there's a lot more stuff with them kind of hiding themselves in the mall and building the wall and that kind of stuff. I always like that cut of the movie. The next one here is from the same company as well. It's another Italian release, and this is from Midnight Factory as well. This is a really cool company. I like the looks that they have to their releases. Now this movie was amazing. This was like a, I did not know anything about this one. They sent this one with Zombies, and I had no clue what this one was. And then I watched it, and like it was just amazing. And like I absolutely love this movie. And it says on here Region B, but I put it in the the Region A Blu-ray player. This is the American Blu-ray player, and it plays. So I don't think there's any region coding at all on this one. So keep that in mind. You should be able to play this one, no problem. And the movie's basically though about like kind of like the show Scare Tactics. And it's about set in Australia though, and it's about a show kind of like Scare Tactics where they kind of scare real people. Like they have hidden cameras everywhere, and like a real person would go into like somewhere they think they got a job working like the graveyard shift at like a insane asylum or an office or something, and then someone comes in there and like a crazy person comes after them to try and kill them, or they see a monster on the wall or something like that. And this show is really popular in Australia. They have like the scaring show, but all of a sudden though, there's the ratings are starting to fail because there's this weird type of show that looks like it might be real, that's being broadcast on the internet and has all these followers, and it's like basically snuff films where the people are getting killed for real, or they think it is, they don't really know. So the network is like, you need to make this show way creepier and way scarier, or otherwise you're not going to get another season, because it's like they have one more episode to shoot for the season, and if it doesn't go better, they're going to get canceled. So it's basically them trying to bump up the show. it's kind of this show. The guy who's the head of it, his girlfriend is one of the actors on the show, and they're having kind of arguments about it because she doesn't really like the way everything's going with it. But it's basically though about them setting up in this old kind of a sane asylum school kind of place where something bad had happened, and of course things go very very wrong there. I don't want to say too much more about it, but it's a super super gory, like insane gore film. Like I don't know, like I said, this was one of those things that's like a put on the shelf movie. You know what I mean? Like one of those movies that like I'm so happy to have and like I really really loved, and like doesn't happen that often, to be honest with you guys. This one was cool. Like this one was definitely look up the trailer of this movie. I love this one. The next one here from E1 is a movie called Lake Fear 2: The Swamp. And this is it's not really a sequel to Lake Fear though. I think it was called like Everglades Terror or something like that, but that Lake Fear 2 was like the title it got released under, because Lake Fear 1, I reviewed a while back, was actually pretty cool. This, like I said, this is a standalone film though. This is essentially though about a group of these friends going out and they kind of just around partying, and some of it's kind of film found footage a little bit because they kind of all have cameras, so they're all filming like their adventures and stuff, and they kind of have heard about out in the Everglades, if they catch a alligator, or say I think it's like an alligator or a certain type of a snake out there, they can sell it for $500. So they're like, oh, we got to go out there because then that'll pay for our whole trip and pay for all the booze and everything like that. So it's all these friends though going out on one of those like boats out there into the Everglades, like one of those airboats, and then they get out there. And then the guy who's driving them has a heart attack, and they end up getting themselves trapped out there in this small, weird little cabin out there in the water. And then people are kind of coming after them. And it's like a crazy slasher thing about them all trying to survive out there. I kind of like this one. It's like some real crazy stuff going on, and like I kind of like the way they filmed it because, like I said, it was a lot of it was like sort of their perspectives and stuff with all different kind of cameras. It has on here though like behind the scenes as well as outtakes on this one. The next one here from Entertainment, E1's line. Momentum Pictures. This is one I heard a lot about with Toni Collette in this movie called Fun Mom Dinner. This is the DVD Blu-ray combo of this one. This is basically about a group of these moms, and it kind of has like sort of the feel of like Bad Moms a little bit, and it's these moms that are coming together for sometimes they get together and kind of like go out at night and kind of like moms all get together and stuff, and they end up inviting Toni Collette, who's like, they don't really like her because she's kind of like a stick in the mud and they don't like the way she acts and stuff, but she ends up going out with them, and they all kind of go out and start to kind of party, and it's kind of like them going out and having this really crazy night when things start to go wrong, and they're all kind of like sort of like kind of like afraid of like acting up or anything like that at first, and throughout the night it gets crazier and crazier, and they all start doing crazy stuff. That's why I said it kind of has that feel of Bad Moms a little bit, that kind of, and like a film like Sisters. It's like one of those kind of things about people going, like moms and stuff like that, going totally nuts and kind of just like doing crazy stuff, and that's essentially what this movie was. A lot of cameos as well in this one, like Adam Driver or Adam Levine, I think, from The Voice, and a number of other people in here have like small parts in this. Molly Shannon is also in this movie. Adam Scott. I don't know. I just thought this was actually a really fun, kind of just crazy movie here, and it has on here cast interviews. And the next one here from a line called Dark Cuts is a movie called Volumes of Blood Horror Stories, and I reviewed the first volumes about a while back. I actually thought that was pretty good. It was all set in like a library, and it was like them kind of telling these stories and stuff. And this is essentially, it's one of those movies that has like a whole lot of different false starts to it, so you kind of don't know when it's starting, because it's like first it's like a slasher movie, then it's like the people in the theater watching the slasher movie, and then it goes to like I think it was like somebody at home watching it, and then essentially it leads into where the story begins about these couple trying to buy this house, and then they go into the house, and then they talk about like the bad things that had happened in the house and like murders and things like that, telling the stories. I really like the cover on this one, like really great old school cover on this release. I can't remember all the stories in this, but I remember like I liked the story though with the movie theater, like the guys that were in the movie theaters and they didn't like the film they were watching, and then they go home and somebody that they kind of harass the movie theaters kind of comes after them and then makes them watch. So like I said, it's got a lot of false starts, so it kind of goes from you don't know exactly when the movie's totally the movie, and it's like the wraparound, because like it's like a lot of different wraparounds before it gets to the movie. It was kind of interesting though how they kind of did all that so many different times, you didn't really know. But it was actually like, when it comes to like anthology movies stories, though. Some stories are better than others, but for the most part, though, most of these ones on here are actually pretty good. It has on here, though, a cast and crew commentary track on this one, and then special effects on the feature, featurette on the special effects, and a behind the scenes as well. And the last one here from Time Life is, I want to let you guys know about this one is being available now. This is The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. This is the Vault series. This is the 6 DVD set one. The thing that's cool about this is 12 full episodes of the show, and what they do is some of the guests on here are Muhammad Ali, Sean Connery, Bob Hope, Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin, Paul McCartney, Burt Reynolds, and basically it's like the full episode. So it has like the commercials and all that kind of stuff. So it's like would air just as it airs on TV and has commercials for things that were airing at the exact time when these were, originally broadcast. So that's kind of cool to see these old school commercials and stuff on this one. But anyway though, guys, that's all for the review, this update video. Thanks again for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.